And there you have it, another comfortable win for India. 4-1, as Moeen comfortably predicted a few months ago. Now it seems like a long, long time
It's
ago.
been a long
I had,
season.
I just didn't want to copy you, and I went 3-1 because I didn't see England winning two. So I thought there's probably weather or something might happen, and but you know England just wanted to go home. I think the last game, I think that was probably the worst performance from them. At least they gave a fight in the first few. But after the second session on day one, I think it was pretty much England just wanted to book an early flight back and decided to go back home.
Or enjoy the
Moving here with
Himalayas.
me. Yeah. Oh yeah. Or maybe a trip to Dubai or Abu Dhabi on the way back or something. um, but I've got Moin here. Well, look, there's a couple of things. Obviously, we've sang enough praises of the Indian team, and I don't think we need to go about doing the same thing again and again. Obviously, fantastic performance from India, and also this Bazball theme, right, around how Bazball is probably dead now and all of that. Part of me also thinks, look, it's difficult to win in India anyway. So the way England have done it, we might as well, give it a go and lose. Everybody else for the last, what, 10, 12 years or 12 years has lost playing, various brands of cricket. Um, Although Pakistan's block ball has never been tested there, but I'm sure that wouldn't survive much longer. um, so what do you think? Is it the end of Bazball, A? And high praise for the Indian team.
No, I don't think it's the end of baseball. And I personally think, look, if you're going to have to do it, you might as well try your luck this way. Look at what happened when England toured last time, right? I mean, it was even more catastrophic. At least here they won a test. And actually, they got pretty close on a couple of other occasions. You just have to say that, like, India for Sena teams is the most difficult place to win. It's sort of how Australia is for Pakistan, South Africa rather is for India, Australia is for Pakistan, etc., etc. I mean, there are these certain conditions and sort of these psychological elements that come into play here, right? And I think England, look, they'll be really disappointed. I think they were absolutely atrocious in this last. It almost felt, and you see this often, where for a series that's dragged on too long, the last test, you can see the players just look fatigued. They just really don't care, especially here when the series is already lost.
Yeah.
You typically see that when the one dayers happen first. Let's say, your old fashioned series where you had 5 one-day internationals followed by like 4 tests, and like the 4 tests, everyone was so exhausted. Here, it was just 5 test matches with a random break in the middle. So all that meant, like, it was really long drawn. I'm not making any excuses for England, but I just think they were just definitely not at their best. The one thing I will say though that hopefully changes it, I'm getting a bit tired of Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum's holier than thou attitude, right? I mean, you lost. And so we're man enough to say, well, yeah, nobody's questioning, man enough. It's almost very defensive. Oh, yeah, well, we're never ever going to turn our back on Bazball. It's given us so much. And and even though if you just watch the press conferences, you see the questions being asked. Nobody is ever pointedly asking those things, but it feels as if they're always on the attack and always trying to defend themselves. And I just think they should calm down a little. Full marks to intent, but execution needs to be a little less rash, right? Joe Root, I
Yeah.
know they won the first test match without Joe Root really contributing much, but had he contributed a little more, barring that one innings, things could have been a bit different, right? I mean, he got out on like so many times, or at least 5 times I can recall doing silly things when he is not to be playing that brand of cricket. He's the
Yeah.
anchor. And yeah, that's my 2 cents of it. I still think Bazball is here to stay, right? I mean, it's their first series loss. Many people will say, well, actually, they haven't really won a series either. Fair enough. But I think they've played a lot of really good test cricket over the years. So I don't think it's the end of Bazball, but I do think they just need to tweak their certain combinations as well as their
Yeah.
execution.
Yeah, I'm completely agree. And I think a lot of the time, the blame, it's very easy to put it on their inexperienced bowling attack because they had obviously very young spinners and some of them would never even played first class cricket like extensively. Um, but I think at the end of the day, when you look at it on paper as well, it's really or actually, if you look at the performances, it's actually the batting that's really let them down, right? The
Yeah.
collapses. I mean, in the last test, 170 for three to 218 all out. So yeah, it's overall. I think it's the batsmen that really need to take the responsibility. But also, I mean, you say this point around a Bazball here to stay, and I agree with you. But I think England also need to look at this holistic, right? They've had a bad series here. They flopped at the World Cup. Two big, you know, losses overall. Playing that brand of
No
cricket
winning
where
the
again,
Ashes at home.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you can argue, okay, maybe Rain in that one Test match played a role, but they still, drew the series. Um, and even that too, a couple of miraculous performances by Ben Stokes and co. So I do agree that I think there is some degree of reflection from England and be like, "Oh, we can't just go, bang bang, and there needs to be a bit of restraint, especially in conditions like this. They flopped in India, the World Cup, they flopped in the Test series eventually. And I agree. I think there needs to be some sort of thinking around what they do next. Um, and look, I mean, the previous series that they've won, obviously they beat Pakistan, a very low quality Pakistan side. Let's be honest. New
Oh,
Zealand and South
flatly.
Africa, yes, are decent teams. Australia, they lost at the end, or they drew the series in the end. India, they've lost when they've come against real top quality opposition. They have lost. So it's a matter of quality rather than intent eventually, which also comes into it.
Yeah, I mean, they point to, I think you point to how they beat India in the one test match at home, remember, to
Yeah,
finish off the series. Now, look, I think you don't have a really strong middle order, right? I'm sorry, I don't think Johnny Bairstow is a number five. I don't even think Ben Stokes is a number five, right? I see them both as really good quality number six batters. Okay, Ben Stokes, maybe you can stretch a little to
yeah,
five, but you know, I think you're unfortunately you're unwilling to drop Bairstow, so you have to fit in two lower order players, and that puts a lot of pressure on Joe Root and Ollie Pope above him, right? I mean, uh, I really think they're missing someone of really good technique at five, right? Johnny Bairstow had this amazing, sensational run before he got injured prior to the World Cup. I get it. But he hasn't replicated that. Let's face it. He has not. He's looked good in pockets, but having a higher score in the 30s at number five is just never going to make like win you a test match, right?
yeah,
Therein lies the problem. But the problem is more to do with how people are being judged in English cricket. I think it's gone too much the Morgan and Brendan McCullum way, where now it's almost if batters are scared to block in first class
yeah,
cricket and county cricket. It's like, no, I will be banished from the national team if I block a ball. So they're just going gung ho, right? So you're
yeah,
not being able to actually assess talent and proper test match talent in county cricket, right? Everyone's playing the 100, wanting to just score big
yeah,
even in first class. So I think that's your problem, right? I mean, you can't create a culture where you're telling everyone, oh, you have to be fearless, otherwise you're never going to find a
yeah.
place in the team. No, you can be fearless and yet respect good balls and play sensibly.
Yeah. I mean, there's always room for a Joe Root, right?
Yeah.
Middle of 10 Johnny Bairstows and Zach Crawleys and Ben Ducketts. But I mean, yeah, we've touched on, or more than touched on, England's issues, but let's take a second to praise India and how amazing they've been without their stalwart Virat Kohli for all five Test matches. That's a big miss. But how their batting has stepped up, Rohit Sharma, Jaiswal, all the new guys that came in the middle order. I mean, I lost count of how many new times they tried a new combination. Sarfraz obviously coming in, the spinners, Kuldeep Yadav as a test bowler really coming through as well. So I mean, it's just positives all around for them. I can't really pick a negative for them, even if I really tried. I mean, at the end, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, there are 2 points I'll make, right? Kuldeep has made left arm leg spin look like the most exotic thing on the planet. You know, it's like taking a holiday to like Fiji, something really exotic, out of the ordinary or something like that. I remember growing up watching Brad Hogg and thinking, oh my God, being a left arm leg spinner must be the most boring thing ever. Because neither do you get wickets because you're going into the batters
Yeah,
who are mostly right handers. They go into, and neither do you have the control to contain the flow of runs. So it's like a lose lose situation, right? And that's what Brad Hogg was. I mean, He barely got wickets. He had decent control, but he used to always have a bad ball around the corner, as leggies do. Most batters are righties. You can't help that. And then here comes
Yeah.
Kuldeep Yadav, and suddenly it's like he's a wizard. You know, nobody knows how to play him. Nobody. I mean, even though, like, okay, I'm not a professional batter here, but it should just be leg spin. But so there's something about the angle, the fact that it's coming from the other side of the umpire, something that just gets to batters. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Now the question for Kuldeep Yadav is he going to maintain this? Right, because right now there's an element of, I don't want to say mystery because everybody knows how the ball turns and what the ball's going to do, but there's an element of uniqueness,
Yeah.
novelty to it, right? Will that last? Right. And the reason I ask that is I think of people like Ajanta Mendes and all the others who are mystery spinners, yes, different. But after a while, that novelty wore off. And suddenly people started training for mystery spinners. They used to get these mystery spinners in their first class circuit to come and bowl to the top batters to just get used to the conditions or
Yeah.
watch videotape, etc. Will Kuldeep Yadav still maintain his stature? That's the big question for him. Okay.
Yeah, I think, but he's gone through that, right? In 2019, when they had a game against England where Chahal and Kuldeep got stomped and then they got dropped from the side, and I think that maybe he's gone through that period of rebuilding. He's kind of reflected and come back into the team, and this is like Kuldeep 2.0. But yeah, I mean, there is a sense of,
Yeah,
yeah,
but there was a gap, wasn't there? There was a pretty big gap between when he played and all. So I think it is almost as if the novelty has come again. Previously,
yeah,
it was more about him not having as much control. That standard
yeah,
Chinaman issue. Now he's got the control, but that novelty is still there because people haven't seen much of him for a consistent period of
yeah,
time. But let's see.
yeah,
Right, that's just a question for India to see. I mean, look, we can sit here and sing all the praises, but I
yeah,
but I think that's one thing for them to just think about. But they've got really good other leggies in the um, on the bench who can be called on if required,
yeah,
right? I know Ashwin, Chahal, all the others, right? So there's no issues there. The other big surprise for me was how good Shubman Gill was, right? I mean,
yeah,
Shubman Gill was brilliant. I didn't see him as a number three batter. I didn't see him as somebody who had a really good technique, right? To be a number three test player, right? Everyone talked about how he's got really good shots and he's got really good intent, but is he good on moving surfaces? Now, still to be tested, playing in England at number three or somewhere else. But I think he has
yeah,
done really well, right? And I think, I mean, Pujara, I'm a big fan of Pujara. I think Pujara's been excellent historically, but I think Pujara's going to
yeah,
have to really fight to keep his place now because I think Shubman Gill has made
yeah.
number three his own.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it's gonna be tough. I think all these players, we had lots of question marks about them. It was obviously Jaiswal's kind of first big home series, and Gill, who was under pressure. Sarfraz coming in after a long, finally getting a call to the national team. A lot of them had questions. They've answered them really well. And
Really
Bumrah,
well.
the bowler, who can you do it in Indian conditions? Absolutely came through. So yeah, I mean, overall, can't really praise him enough. It's been a phenomenal performance, and I think there's not a lot more we can say that we haven't said in the last 3-4 episodes of this series
Yeah,
about praising how
totally.
good India
Yeah.
have been. So there you have it. A convincing win for India, as Moeen correctly predicted, 4-1. Let's see what happens with Bazball and the rebranding of English cricket. But for now, that's it. Please do subscribe to our channel and thank you for watching.
Thanks.